8:55 Eastern Time, and Columbia and its affiliated stations bring you Elmer Davis and the news.
Tonight, all Europe is speculating on what Hitler will say tomorrow, but in this country, interest still centers on the extraordinary message received last night from Grand Admiral Raeder, head of the German Navy. As announced at the White House this afternoon, Admiral Raeder told our naval attaché in Berlin that according to his information, the American liner Iroquois, due to arrive in New York next Wednesday with 584 passengers, will be sunk when it nears our coast, quote, through a repetition of circumstances which marked the loss of the steamship Athenia. The Germans, of course, maintain that the British sank the Athenia. At first, they blamed a British submarine acting under direct orders from Winston Churchill. Later, they said that an infernal machine might have been placed on board. The White House announced that as a precautionary measure, American warships would meet the Iroquois at sea and accompany it to port. Our Washington correspondent, Mr. Warner, reported earlier in the evening the speculation in the capital as to what this strange communication from Admiral Raeder might mean. Several theories were suggested, but nobody has the faintest idea as to which, if any of them, may be true. Stephen Early, President Roosevelt's secretary, said that he didn't believe any British or French or any other ship would do such a thing. The British and French governments have been notified of Admiral Raeder's statement, and the British Admiralty as yet has made no comment. This should at least reassure the people who ascribe a superhuman skill to British propaganda. A shrewd propagandist would have been ready with an instant explanation whether it was true or false. The debate on neutrality goes on in the Senate, but the audience is walking out on it, not only in the gallery, but on the floor. Twice today, Mr. Warner reported, the Senate had to pause to gather a quorum. Senator Nye of North Dakota said that he would vote for the cash and carry provisions of the neutrality bill, but not if repeal of the arms embargo is the price that must be paid for them. Senator Overton of Louisiana also opposed repeal, and Senator Toby of New Hampshire spoke for his proposal that the two parts of the bill be voted on separately. Overseas, it was largely a day of rumors, most of which were promptly denied. A Belgian news agency reported that the Germans might consider that their promise to respect Belgian neutrality was no longer operative if enemy warplanes fly across Belgian territory. The Germans at once denied it. In Berlin, there were stories that Hitler's speech tomorrow would include not only the promise of setting up some sort of state to be called Poland, but also the granting of more freedom to the Czechs in the Bohemian-Moravian Protectorate. But our Berlin correspondent, Mr. Scheirer, reported this evening that he had been able to find no confirmation at all for this latter report. But on the Baltic front, the news is fact, not rumor. The Russians today signed the treaty with Latvia, which gave them the right to establish naval bases at the Baltic ports of Libau and Windau, and coast artillery batteries to defend them. Russian pressure is being put on Lithuania to permit Russian army garrisons along the railroads leading from Russia through Lithuanian territory to these naval bases in Latvia, and there is not much expectation that the Lithuanians can resist the demand for very long. Only the Turkish Foreign Minister Sarakoglu, who has been in Moscow for days, is apparently still holding out against the Russian demands, whatever they may be. According to the most plausible reports, they include the closing of the Dardanelles and Bosporus to British and French warships, and possibly Turkish acquiescence in Russian designs on Romania. Military operations on the Western Front were of small importance today, but if England and France refuse Hitler's peace proposals, the war in the West may become a reality at any moment. Many of you heard Major George Fielding Elliott earlier this evening expressing the view that a direct mass attack on London by the German Air Force might entail more risk than it was worth, but that much more might be obtained by smaller-scale air and submarine attacks against British ports. London is, of course, the largest port. Today, Hitler reviewed his victorious troops in Warsaw and told them that we Germans pull the straps of our helmets closer, apparently for action in the West. American correspondents report that not a single Pole saw the Fuhrer. A cordon of German sentries kept them all a block away from the route he followed through the streets. After looking over the wreckage of the city, Hitler said to the newspaper men, "You have seen for yourselves what criminal folly it was to defend this city. I only wish those men in other countries who seem to want to turn the whole of Western Europe into such a shambles as Warsaw could have this opportunity of seeing the real meaning of the war." After this hint of the criminal folly of resistance, Hitler returned to Berlin, where he will address the Reichstag and the world tomorrow morning. The speech will be carried on all networks beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, and people who miss it may miss one of the most important documents in the history of contemporary Europe.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.